Where is God in this pandemic? Friends, welcome back to day 36 of Lent, where we continue to reflect upon St Alphonsus Liguori's sermons. Today, he has some interesting thoughts that I think are really relevant to what we are experiencing.
Some people think they are beloved of God when all their affairs go prosperously with them and they have no troubles. But St. James says, "Blessed is the man that suffereth temptation, for when he is tried, he will receive the crown of life, which God hath promised to them that love him. The faithfulness of soldiers is tried, not in repose, but in battle."
So you're experiencing different temptations during this COVID time. With this isolation and lockdowns, people are alone. They're not connecting with other people. So there's different temptations that come with that. Sometimes more temptation to vice, more temptation to doubt in God's love, a temptation maybe to stop praying and striving for holiness, a temptation to think, I'm alone, God has abandoned me. What are we to believe regarding these temptations? Are we to believe that somehow God has left us? It's the opposite. Listen again to what St. Alphonsus says.
But St. James says, "Blessed is the man that suffereth temptation, for when he is tried, he will receive the crown of life, which God hath promised to them that love him." It's interesting when you were listing off all those temptations, I was thinking a lot of this could be solved in some ways with community.
Oh, yeah.
When we detach ourselves from community, when we break apart from sources of accountability, attending mass and people seeing you, and if you don't show up, nobody's going to ask you why you weren't there anymore. Whereas before, people are like, "Where have you guys been? We missed you last weekend." Maybe you have a Bible study, or maybe you have different community events that you're participating in. I just feel like it really detaches people when they don't have community.
So it's just my thoughts here. I think God is preparing his church for a blessing because there's a pruning that's happening. Now, I'm not saying that God has caused COVID. Okay, I'm not saying that. But he's definitely allowed it because he's all powerful and he could have prevented it.
Right.
So he's allowed it for what reason? For pruning, to purifying our faith so that there would be growth. St. Alphonsus continues, "Now is the time for pruning the vine, for cutting off everything that hinders its growth towards the promised land and of heaven. But the cutting off produces pain, so that we have need of patience. And then comes the restoration of gladness, when the more we have suffered, the more we shall be filled with consolations." Pause. Friends, don't despair. There's pain in the pruning, but there's a promise in the pain. So believe that God is doing a great work through whatever is happening in the world. And could it get worse?
Yep.
It could. It could get a lot worse. What does that mean for us? It means God is pruning his people for an abundant of blessing. So there's no reason to despair. There's no reason to get discouraged, because if God has allowed what I believe is a pruning, blessing is coming.
But does that mean that we will see the blessing in our lifetime?
Hey, maybe not.
Maybe not, and that doesn't matter.
Because maybe this pruning is to prepare us for an eternal reward that exceeds 100-fold. And if that's the case, praise God.
Yeah, and I think that's just the whole idea, we don't have to fear death. If we don't see any of this come to pass, we're not living for this life on earth. We're living for the afterlife.
Yeah, holiness is not found on a couch. It's found on a cross. Jesus said, if you want to be my disciple, you must pick up your cross daily and follow me. So it seems that Jesus has given us extra crosses so that we could grow in love for him.
O cursed self-love, which intrudes itself in all our works, even in our spiritual exercises, in meditation, in works of penance, and in all our pious works. It goes about seeking its own interest. I am one who even in my devotions have been seeking my own pleasure and satisfaction. Right away, I thought about my life before I was married, before having children. And I remember thinking I love my prayer time. I love sitting in silence. I never got angry. I was able to wait patiently. And then it was all of a sudden you start having kids. And it's whoa. Like, I didn't know I had that inside of me. I didn't know I could like yell like that, or that I could get frustrated or impatient or be angry. And it's just like all these emotions just sort of came out. But you know what? It brings me back to that very first quote that we read about how faithfulness of soldiers is tried not in repose, but in battle. And not that I'm saying that family life is a battle, but in some ways it is. And it's like God has created family life in order to refine us, to bring about virtue, to help sanctify us. That's what marriage is about. It's to sanctify one another so that we can bring each other to heaven.
So if you find a little bit of your family life distressing, do not despair. And it's just opportunities for pruning and opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave it with that. Friends, if you like this video, please like it, share it, comment below what stood out to you and why. And the rosary is going to be right up there. Please pray with us. We will see you tomorrow.